Wow, amazing. Connected. We should be live. Right, so I think this is pretty good because I might be able to pull up an exercise page, which I wasn't able to do last time because I didn't have the software set up. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's see. Meanwhile, we're going to wait for people to turn up. Welcome to this session. This is an Italian session. We're going to be doing some Italian exercises to practice our Italian. Meanwhile, in the chat, you're free to ask any question you want. I'm going to tackle it just in a minute. In just a minute, just dealing with setting this up so that we can work more efficiently. I would like to be able to show you the spelling of things, and it's easier if I have the setup done on my computer. Right. Okay. So we have this. Let's see if it works. Okay, it works. Fantastic. All right. So if you guys could tell me if you can hear me okay. Audio input, that should work. The video should work. And the audio should work here as well. Okay. So okay. Right, so today we're going to talk about something a little difficult, so be ready. Let me just check if you can see. Oh, perfect. Right, and yeah, we have some black borders, but we're going to be doing this anyways. All right, so we have some people online already. The sound is fine. Francimara, Arturo. Ciao a tutti. In questa lezione parleremo di imperfetto. Do you guys know what the imperfetto is and why it's useful, how it's used? It's a very interesting topic because it is commonly used in Italian and it is commonly misrepresented. It's difficult to teach the imperfetto, and it's difficult for people to understand it because people come from other languages and they don't have it and they don't think it's why is it necessary? For example, English has lots of tenses. The imperfetto does not exist in English. So why on earth would we come up with a new tense just to make things difficult? Possibly. But we'll see, it's not that difficult at the end of the world, at the end of the day. Arturo dice lo so. Lo so. So is it refer to the fact that it's difficult or refer to the tense itself? Ciao a tutti, Mark. Ciao, Mark. So this question was actually asked originally by Mark. I received a question from a few people. I'm actually very happy that this time I've received quite a few questions. I'm going to start with the one that Mark asked, simply because I think he's in the university, so he's with us, and also because it's a tough question, so it's going to take a whole session to explain, and then I'll cover other questions in the future. I know the tense somewhat. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so I think the most important thing is not to lose sight of the end goal. The end goal is to become fluent. I hope. Maybe you have a different goal, and that's fine. We can talk about it. We can discuss it. But if we want to become fluent, we don't want to become experts. We don't want to become language experts, although to some extent we will have to, because we cannot afford the luxury that native speakers can afford, and that is being ignorant, right? So when you study a language, you realize that you quickly learn more rules and more patterns and you borrow more ideas than the average native speaker. So you might ask the average Italian native speaker, why do you use the present perfect and not the past simple? And the native speaker is just not equipped, or might not be equipped, with giving you an answer that makes sense. They might say, oh, I don't know. Or, oh yeah, we should use the past simple. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. We all get it wrong. Well, if all native speakers get it wrong, that makes it right by definition, right? So, we are going to become language expert in the sense that we will have to learn the ins and outs of a language that is not difficult. I think Italian is quite easy, but sometimes not straightforward and very sophisticated. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we're going to learn as much as we need in order to be fluent. Is it okay to completely ignore the past simple in Italian in order to be fluent? Yes, I think it is. The past simple is very difficult because it comes with its own highly irregular conjugations, and you don't need it. So why learn it? You can learn it once you're fluent, and if that's fun, do it. I use it sometimes just to confuse other people. But I make sure that I don't teach people to learn it. Now, the imperfetto is slightly different because the imperfetto is actually, if not necessary, it's useful. And if you don't want to use it, you'll still hear it every day. So, yeah, very different conversation with the imperfetto. All right, guys, I'm going to start explaining the imperfetto now. If you want to take some tea or coffee or water, or potentially even a napkin, because we're going to cry, because it's a difficult topic. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a difficult conversation. Tenses are already difficult, but the imperfetto is even more difficult. So yeah, put a thumbs up now before you actually sit the lessons, because you might want to, you might want to just close the laptop or close the phone halfway through. No, I'm joking. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible and give you the examples that are most meaningful. I will say two things as preamble before we begin. One thing. So the imperfetto is very Italian. It doesn't exist in English, doesn't exist in a number of languages, which makes it tricky because you're going to have to start using a tense that you're not used to. It's not that difficult, but it requires certain basic knowledge in order to explain it properly. which brings me to point number 2. I'm going to try my best now to explain it well, clearly, and relatively quickly, because we don't want to sit here for 3 hours, right? I'm going to try and explain it in 10, 15, 20 minutes so that we can have some time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes to exercise. However, the basic elements that the imperfetto sits on are the, it's basically one big topic that we have to talk about before we talk about imperfetto. And these things take time, right? So to be concise and be brief and clear, I'm going to explain all these things, taking a small section of a small window of your time. But bear in mind that these things are explained at length in our courses, and they're explained at length because they take time to fully enunciate, explain. So let's begin from the beginning. Actually, I'm going to get some water and I'm going to come back in a second. Hold on a minute. Right. So let's begin from the beginning. Let me pull out my notes. Right. Okay. And please let me know if you have difficulties hearing me. So, imperfetto is a tense. Sometimes in English we talk about the past. And I'm going to go through the exact examples that were sent by a student so that we can cover them. He asked, what's the deal between essere and stare in the past tense? So this means essere, for example, ero stanco, I was tired. And stare, stavo nuotando, o nuotavo, I was swimming. So this is the question that was asked that sort of triggered this conversation, this lesson about the imperfetto. What's happening here? Just checking back with you. Viva Italia. Viva l'Italia. Great. I'm gonna go through your comments later. Let me know if you can't hear me or you can't see me. So let's go back to the lesson. Again, the question is, we're talking about tenses. There's lots of tenses in Italian. There's lots of tenses to describe the past actions. Whether the past action is happening before another action or later, it's all very complex and difficult. So, in particular, we use the verb stare, stavo nuotando, for example, sometimes to conjugate some complex tenses. For example, I was swimming. In English, you use was. You use the verb to be. In Italian, you don't. You use the verb stare, to stay. That's a bit weird. In other cases, like I was tired, ero stanco, we use the verb essere. So the question was, why do we sometimes use the verb to be, essere, and some other times we use the verb to stay, stare? So I can answer this question super quickly, but as I said, the trend, the foundation, the iceberg behind this question is imperfetto. we have to talk and understand about imperfetto. Understand this tense and how it's used. So first of all, let's answer the question directly. So the two examples that we were given, I was tired and I was swimming, these examples are not good examples. But what I mean by this is it's not a fair comparison. It's a distorted view that's causing this. I was tired is in the past simple in English. I was, right? I was, full stop, or I was tired, or I was angry, or I was happy. Past simple, easy. Or it could be I did this. I went to, I don't know, the kitchen. I was swimming. I was swimming. Yes, it does use the same tense, the same verb, to be, was, but it's a different tense. So it's not the past simple, it's the past continuous. It's the past continuous. I was swimming. So a fair comparison would have been I was being and I was swimming. I was being tired and I was swimming. So if those two were being compared, then it would be a fair comparison. So this is one element to the question. The second element is very easy. So whenever we have present perfect or past perfect in Italian. So passato prossimo, trapassato prossimo. So the two verbs passato prossimo, present perfect, trapassato prossimo. Feel free to take notes, but probably you're going to have to go through the notes again later and fix them up. And this is the reason why in our courses I always tell people to use ring binders, because you can then add and subtract. But if you're taking notes on the laptop or on your phone, then it doesn't matter, of course. Trapassato prossimo, past perfect. So examples can be ho mangiato, ho dormito, and trapassato prossimo, avevo mangiato, avevo dormito. Okay, so these are examples. These are examples in Italian. Let's color them in a way that looks pretty. Does that look pretty? Maybe not, but it doesn't matter. So, okay. Here we go. Now they're all somehow looking more appealing, at least to me. Can you all see all of the stuff that I've been writing? Hopefully, yes. Continuous gerundio. I'm not sure. Let me continue and then I'll go through the questions. So where are we at? I got lost for a bit. Right. So present perfect, past perfect in English. I have been or I had been. In Italian, same thing. Now, here is the difference which answers the question completely. Here is the difference between, it's a small difference and it's a technical difference and it can easily be remembered. In English, we use the verb to have to conjugate the present perfect, I have eaten, I have slept. Or the past perfect, I had eaten, I had slept. We conjugate using the verb to have, right? Unless the verb is intransitive. Again, these things you might not know, but you actually know. You don't know that you know because you're a native speaker or because you've learned English a long time ago. But if I said, oh, this is an interesting thing, actually. I made a small mistake. In English, it's always the verb to have that is used, right? This is also a tricky thing. This is why this can be confusing in Italian. So when we use the present perfect, the past perfect, we always use the verb to have to conjugate these complex tenses. However, in Italian, it's not the case. In Italian, if the verb is intransitive, and that means that we don't have a direct object. So I eat pasta. This is a transitive verb, to eat, because it allows me to use an object. To eat what? Something. Mangio la pasta. Mangio la pasta. Mangio la pasta is a correct Italian sentence. It's using a transitive verb. The subject is implicit, io. Mangio la pasta. The verb mangiare is transitive. The verb to eat is transitive. Let's take a look at an intransitive verb. Vado a Roma. Now, I cannot tell you I go, chicken, or I go something. Especially in Italian, like you need a preposition. I go to somewhere. So you don't go something, right? It's impossible to go something. You can do something, you can eat something, you can drink something, and that's why these verbs are all transitive, but you cannot go something. You cannot come back something. So this is the difference between a transitive verb and an intransitive verb. Now in Italian, so this is an important difference. So this is transitive, and the verb below intransitive. In Italian, when we want to create, form, build the present perfect, past perfect, if the verb is intransitive, we don't use the verb to have, we use the verb to be. Use the verb to be. For example, I have gone. I have gone. As you can see, in English, it's always with to have, right? I have gone. I have come back. In Italian is I am gone. I am come back. I am come back doesn't actually make sense in English. But in Italian, it's the way to do it. It's the way to form the present perfect. So, io sono andato. Now this is interesting, right? In English, you wouldn't say that. Or at least not in the same way. So, io sono andato. It's using the verb to be. Essere. Another intransitive example in Italian. Io sono tornato. Tornare. These are intransitive verbs, and so we use the verb to be. Now, the question was, why is there the verb to stay? In English we say I was swimming. In Italian we say stavo nuotando. Why do we use the verb to stay? Well, we use the verb to stay, stare. You can make it very big, 36. Stare. Because we use it to form io sto andando, io stavo andando. The present continuous and the past continuous. Sto andando, I am going. Stavo andando, I was going. So with this, we sort of answer the initial question. And the initial question was, let me see if there's any interesting questions. Guys, let me know if you have any questions. I'm now going to delve deeper into the imperfetto. So far, I've just tackled the question on a surface, right? On a surface. So what's going on there? Why we use to be, why we use to stay, why we use to have. So these are the reasons why we use different verbs to create these sentences, to form these complex tenses. If you have any questions, if you're super confused, just let me know. Again, it was a bit long-winded, but it had to be explained. Now we can just talk about the imperfetto, because the first example, it's using the imperfetto as a tense, and that's a new tense. And we've already been super long. I mean, I've spent about 25 minutes talking about this. I'm gonna wait for another 30 seconds. You can breathe in, breathe out, relax for a minute, actually half a minute, and then we get started with the imperfetto. Okay, we can start. Bring it on. Lol. Sono qui in ritardo. Perfetto, perfetto. Oh, okay, there's a confused face. All right, well, Mark, yeah, help me a bit more. Let me think about maybe better ways to explain it. Just kidding. All right. Right. So let's get going. We're going to explain the imperfetto in Italian. Some people might not make it. I'm going to try and make it in 15. I'm going to try and take 15 minutes, not more than that. Mark once more. Brilliant. Yeah, we're gonna do a 6-hour live session tomorrow, just on that. Yeah. As I said, the imperfetto is a bit tricky. We'll tackle it and not dwell upon it. All right. So the first important pillar that has to be explained, has to be clear in your mind. So if you don't understand it, go and research it by yourself or join our course and then ask questions next time if you're still confused. Hopefully not. Il tempo dell'azione. That's what you see on the screen right now. Il tempo dell'azione. What does it mean? The time of the action. This is a very literal translation and it works. This is a grammatical topic that is foundational. What does it mean, the time of the action? Some actions take time to fully manifest, right? So, for example, I used to go to school. I mean, it's an action, right? There is a subject, I used to go somewhere, that's the predicate, the verb, etc. And to school, that's an extra bit of information. Fine. I used to go to school. Now, this action takes some time, maybe months, maybe weeks, maybe years. We don't know. It's not clear from the outset, but it's clear that it wasn't just an instant. It took time, or at least the way I'm describing it, right? I used to go to school for a period of time. I used to go to school for 5 years, for 50 years, for 5 seconds. It took some time. Now, if I say something like, I met John. I met John. At that moment, I met John. Now, that action virtually didn't take any time. We met. It happened, right? Now, this is tricky because this is a concept that you wouldn't pay attention to, you wouldn't expand, you wouldn't explore unless you were Italian, because you don't need to. The grammar, the rules that govern the way you speak don't actually care about whether an action takes a certain amount of time, shorter, longer amount of time. Although in English you have things like I have done it, I did it. So I did it, the action starts in the past, ends in the past. I have done it, it starts in the past, it's not ended yet, or it's just ended now. So there are subtleties in other languages. I'm not saying that there aren't. I'm saying that this subtlety isn't present in other languages, right? Not that I'm aware of. And please let me know in the chats if your language also does have this subtlety, this nuance, and if so, you will have an advantage. Right, so some actions take time, some actions don't take time. Let me give you an example, because if you're confused now, I might just destroy your confusion in just 1 second with an example, because sometimes things are hard to explain, easy to show. Actually, many times that's the case. So these there are examples that they have in common with transitive, intransitive, and that was quala. Okay. I'll answer the questions later on. I'll just keep going. So, il tempo dell'azione. What does it mean? Okay, so it happened when I was a kid, when I was a child. When I was a child, I hit my head. And you can see the results now. Whatever happened when I was a kid. So look at this sentence from this point of view. So when I was a kid, so I was being a kid for a period of time, right? I wasn't just a kid for one day. I was a kid for an extended period of time. And I'm sure you can relate to that. When I was a kid, so during the time while I was being a kid, it happened. So something happened. So we could imagine a horizontal arrow showing the action of me being a kid. So a certain length of time. And then one vertical arrow pointing down or up that signifies when something happened, right? So it happened when I was a kid, or I met her when I was a kid, or we had disagreement when we were kids. So when some long action was occurring, one precise, very, very quick action occurred. This is the difference. I'll give you another example. While I was going to school, so let's get the examples in the next page. Okay, so this is example number 1. While I was going to school, I met your father. Right, so this is another example. I would like to stop immediately and ask you, which action, like, can you tell me how many actions are in this sentence and which action are taking a long time, which actions are not taking a long time, which is the horizontal arrow and which is the vertical arrow. Think about it in your own head at least for 30 seconds and feel free to post it in the chat. I'm going to stop for 30 seconds and I want you to be on board with me. So please put it in the chat if you don't understand anything about what I've said. I'm not asking, do you know exactly what I've said? No, I'm asking, do you get the main point about the actions and their lengths, comparative lengths that I've just made? Or is it completely unclear to you what I've just said? This is important for me to understand. Otherwise, there's no point in going forward from this. Okay, cool. Yeah, going to school is a long action. Met your father is a precise moment in time. Exactly. When I met. Capisco, ottimo, bene, bene, bene. When I went to school is the horizontal. I met your father is the vertical. Great. Okay, so this is absolutely great. This is, by the way, the hardest part to understand, right? This is the hardest. This is the hardest thing to understand, because unless someone tells you, you cannot imagine this conceptualization of time. Because, I mean, who does that, right? We wouldn't naturally think about these things. So this is very important. We have a horizontal arrow and a vertical arrow. Fine. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Whenever there is a vertical arrow, what does that mean? What does that say about that particular, I guess you would call it clause, right? It happened when I was a kid. While I was going to school, I met your father. So these sentences are purposely formed with two clauses. It happened when I was a kid. While I was going to school, I met your father. So we have two predicates in the first sentence, two predicates in the second sentence. The vertical arrow, so it happened, or I met your father in these two examples. What do they have in common? Well, they are very simply actions in the past. They started in the past and they ended in the past because they started and ended immediately. So that's easy. These actions are in the past, so we will use the past simple. Now remember, Italians don't use the past simple, they use the present perfect instead, but it doesn't matter. So whenever in English you use the past simple, in Italian you use the present perfect. You don't say, I went to the gym. In Italian you say, I have gone to the gym. When? 3 days ago. Doesn't matter. But the point I'm trying to make is that these clauses that are vertical arrows, they belong to the past, And there's no conversation that you and I have to have about which tense to use when. It's always present perfect because it's just past. It's past simple. So see that as past simple. So, right, let's go with è successo. È successo is it happened, right? È successo. Succedere is a verb. It means to happen. And it's intransitive, so we use the verb to be when we form the present perfect, and we use the present perfect done. So if I were to speak to you, say you come to Italy, you bring some guns with you, because why not? And at the airport, the police asked you, what happened? And you decide to be very funny, and you just say, it just happened. So it just happened, or it happened, is è successo. So the question could be, cosa è successo? What happened? Right? So I'm just giving you examples of simple sentences in the present perfect, which is the past simple, right? In Italian, you use the present perfect. In English, you use the past simple. What happened? Something happened. Something happened. Okay, these are stupid examples, but these are just sentences in the past simple. È successo qualcosa. Okay, so in English, you use the past simple. In Italian, you use the present perfect. Fine. So the fact that it's here, it has no bearing, right? We've seen that this particular piece of the sentence is the vertical arrow, and so we use the past, done. We deal with it as past. Thank you very much. Now, as for the horizontal arrows, we have to be more careful, because when I was a kid, this particular piece of the sentence and this, while I was going to school, these are actually not trivial to deal with in Italian. I would argue that they are not even trivial to deal with. No, I'm getting to it, but no, it's not as simple as horizontal imperfetto. That's not the case. Mark is saying horizontal imperfetto, vertical passato prossimo. Almost correct. But no, and this is the last subtlety that I want you to remember. So, and this is it, by the way. So it would seem to be that if the arrow is vertical, we treat it as past simple, present perfect. That depends if you speak in English or in Italian, but it's dealt with as past. The horizontal arrow, well, it depends. If we're in the process of doing something and we want to specify that we were in the process of doing it, then we use the present or past continuous. So while I was going to school, or when I was a kid, so in this case, are we going to use the present continuous or past continuous, or are we going to use the imperfetto? Here's the idea. If we want to highlight the fact that we were in the process of doing something, we use the present or past continuous. Otherwise, we use imperfetto. And this shouldn't come as a big surprise, because in English you also have two different forms, and I'm going to show you why. When I was a kid. When I was a kid. Quando ero bambino. So in this case we use imperfetto. While I was going to school. Quando stavo andando a scuola. Now, the idea here is that I wasn't in the process of being a kid. Obviously, I was a kid for a very, very, very long time. And the point is not that I was in the process of doing something particular. The point is that it was at that time. So in English, you also have the form I used to. When I used to be a kid. I used to do this. I used to go to the gym. Andavo in palestra. So it could be that it's a horizontal arrow, but the action wasn't even continuous. It could be that it was repeated many times. But throughout that long period of time, that action was constantly repeated. In that case, you would also use imperfetto. And in that case, you couldn't possibly use I was in the process of going to the gym, because that means a completely different thing. And in English, you respect that difference by using other forms, such as I used to go to the gym. So I used to go to the gym and I was going to the gym. They're slightly different. And the same stands in Italian. We don't have the I used to form. Instead, we use the imperfetto. So imperfetto is for actions that take a long time in the past, or actions that repeated many times in the past. And you want to talk about that time period during which that action was occurring, maybe once a month, maybe once a day, maybe continuously. So here it is. Long story short, these are the examples that I wanted to show you, that I wanted to bring to your attention. What do you think? Are you completely confused? Is there something that you would like me to go over? We've been doing this for too long now, so I'm gonna close the chats and close the session soon. But if you want, next session we could just do a bunch of exercises on this. The imperfetto is very, very, very important, and so you can't just skip it, right? You can skip the past simple. No one cares about passato remoto. But yeah, not the imperfetto. The imperfetto is actually useful. Yeah. Whew. It's too hot here. They should have just made Italian easier. Ok, difficile ma ottima lezione. Grazie Mark. Ottima lezione. Lezione is female. Feminine. It's not female, but feminine. It's good info. Let's do examples in sentences next week. Yeah, let's do a bunch of examples next week. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna give you one example, and then we're gonna close the session. We're gonna meet next week, and I'm gonna prepare more examples for next week. Or you could prepare examples for next week, and I'm gonna correct them all. How about that? You do the work, because remember, I cannot teach you Italian. You can only learn it. You are the only one that can get it done. So yeah. It would be good if each and every one of you, amazing people that turned up to this scary lesson, if you could come up with 2, 5 examples each, and feel free to get them all wrong. It doesn't matter if you do them right now and then save them for next week, or if you do them next week, or if you do them throughout the week. And then I'm gonna take a look. But yeah, I'm just gonna go through one simple example. Let me see, because I had prepared one that was particularly. Oh yeah, when I used to go to school, I was very shy. Let's make it big because this is a final example. When I used to go to school, I was very shy. Now, there are such sentences in language. There are in English, there are in Italian. In this case, because remember, we have 3 cases. Horizontal line with vertical line. Vertical line and vertical line. For example, I injured my knee when I tripped, right? So vertical line, vertical line. When this happened, that happened. Both actions took no time. So in that case, you used past simple, past simple. Then we have horizontal line, vertical line. That's a second type of sentence. So when something was happening, something else happened. But then, of course, there are 2 horizontal lines. That's a third type of tempo dell'azione. Remember, this plethora, this conglomerate of ideas is called il tempo dell'azione. So the third type is when something was happening, something else was also happening. So we have 2 horizontal arrows. When I used to go to school, obviously I was going to school for a long time, obviously. I was very shy. When was I shy? The whole time. The whole time I was shy, right? So, quando andavo a scuola, ero molto timido. And imperfetto, imperfetto. So you see how neat, in this sense, Italian fixes the problem of, oh, we have to use the past simple, then we have to use I used to, blah, blah, blah. In Italian, imperfetto, imperfetto. So it might be a good idea. I don't know. I haven't, I stay on the fence on that one. Thank you very much, guys. It's been amazing. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for all the ones that always turn up. It's very good, and I respect you very much. Italian is a beautiful language, but it can be tough sometimes. And I see some people here come every week and watch me rant. That's very much appreciated. Yeah, I hope that we can get more people to tune in, because it's going to be more fun. I haven't been insulted once. Nobody ever insulted me in these chats. I take this as an insult itself. So I would like for this to become a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging, although it's becoming more and more fun as we go. Sorry if I didn't read your questions. I will read them next time. I read some of your questions. Your use of horizontal and vertical lines is helpful. It gives a visual of how to think of the sentence. Yeah. I mean, Sherry, I agree with you. I think it's a great use of sort of shapes to explain something that is often a little bit mischaracterized. Can you stream on Trovo? 24 Stackaman. I don't really know what Trovo is, but I'm gonna Google it. I'll try to insult you next week. No, now it doesn't count anymore. You see, you've just ruined it. That's it. 24 Stackaman. Yeah, can you stream on Trovo? I will check it out. Ciao ciao. Very clear, Marco. Grazie. Thanks. Thank you. Fiore, molto interessante. Grazie. I think lots of exercise would be helpful. Yes, we were going to do more exercises next time. It's just a long thing. It takes hours to explain this in depth. Hours. So I just did what I could with the time I had, with the tools at hand. Oh no, we have more messages. These are quite old. Going to school is a long action. Met your father is a precise moment in time. Absolutely. Star exam. Do they have something in common with transitive, intransitive? Oh, Michael. I don't know if I pronounce your name right. Stare. Do they have something in common with transitive, intransitive? No. Excellent question. So I messed up. Basically, that little thing, I didn't really have to say it. The intransitive, transitive conversation, that means that we have to use avere and essere as auxiliary verb to form the present perfect or the past perfect. That conversation I didn't actually have to have today. I got confused. I had to talk about stare, which is what Italians need to form the present continuous and past continuous, while in English you use the verb to be, and that's it. So I made that more complex than it should have been by adding extra information that wasn't needed. So stare doesn't have anything to do with transitive, intransitive. Great question. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that question. All right, brilliant. Ciao a tutti, buona settimana e ci vediamo la prossima settimana. Remember, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and don't forget to turn up next week with some examples. All right. Buona serata, buona mattina, buongiorno, buon pomeriggio e buona settimana a tutti. Grazie.